Detecting talk of the day. 15 September, 11:15 a.m. Central Daylight Savings Time, 2023. You know, I read around on the forums, and you get to hear people's, what they have to say, and all that stuff, and I give it some consideration. Now, some of it's so lame, I just blow it off. I'm not the smartest person in the world, never have claimed to be. I will say this, though. The zinc and penny, that coin has probably cost metal detectors more good finds than they realize. And what do I mean by that? As good, and you see two premier machines laying there, boys, a Manticore and a DS2. They're both extraordinary machines, okay? I'm not in the tank with either manufacturer. I like them both. They do have their strengths and weaknesses, They're not that far apart. Anyway, this zinc and penny. Well, you'll always have the person out there. Now, I'm guilty. Everybody's guilty of doing select digging, okay? Now, I've got the small coil on this Manticore. We may fire it up in this video, but I may turn this camera off, in the interim a few times. We may run that DS2. Now, the zinc and penny ID, everybody wants to get rid of the zinc and to dig the silvers, okay, and dig the coppers maybe. I get that. As good as these two machines are right here, if that's all you're digging, if you're digging targets at ID above running notch or not running notch, if that's all you're digging, you are leaving good targets in the ground. This would even apply to the mighty E-Track and the CTX made by Minelab, and the Legend, and a lot of other machines. So when you're out digging, actually, to be honest with you, that might be a good place to start, especially in a pounded site, one that you've spent time in or has been hunted, because if somebody has done what I've said and notched out the zinc and pennies, and all that other slower conductive trash, and you go in there, you might find you a few finds. Now, you're probably not going to load the wagon. Truth be told, if you're a volumes fine coin hunter these days, you're probably out of luck. You're SOL, if you know what that means, okay? You just need to get out and enjoy the hobby. And I actually try to make it a personal challenge. Even in sites I've already hunted, I'm challenging myself based on what I know about what I've done previously. Okay, now hunting on a beach, can be a little different because, you got stuff out there being dropped. It ain't like old home sites, some of these older coins in parks, etc., okay? Now, I've seen one guy who's made a comment. I still can't figure out why he continues to say this. Oh, I've never seen ID on a multi-frequency trump single frequency. Well, I'm going to fire these two detectors up. Let's see if there's anything to what that old boy's trying to say. Now, this is air. No ground involved, okay? And the ground is probably not going to make either one of these detectors do a better job in single frequency of ID and that mercury silver dime right there. Okay? Now, disclaimer here, when I turn these detectors on, neither one of these detectors is going to give a grand ID on that mercury dime. Okay? But watch what happens when I go to single frequency. Watch what happens to the ID. Now, the DS2 on deeper targets in the soil, mono program. This applies to the DS1. Applies to other single frequency machines, but the DS1 and this mono and this DS2, they probably don't ID as deep in single frequency as some other machines. That's true, okay? You see the scenario we have here. This is not a very deep scenario, but it's not an ultra shallow scenario, okay, what we're simulating here. Okay, some people may be interested in seeing this little small coal on this Manicore. I'm not sure if anybody in the United States has actually been able to purchase one of these yet or not, which is a little shocking to me, but you know, I'm me and Minelab is Minelab. So let me turn this camera off briefly. I'll show you the setup here before I turn the camera off. I've got a nail here. I've got a piece of iron there. The silver dime is there. And there's a small piece of ferrous up there. Elevate. Okay. Let's just play around with these two detectors and see what kind of conclusions we can draw. And you'll understand when I opened up this video and talking about that zinc and penny and its ID. That may be a good place for you to start in a challenge site doing select digging even, okay? A hard hunted site. I see people say, well, I've used small coals and I don't ever find much. Well, you're not going to probably find a lot if you go in there with a big coal. You're probably not going to go in there and come out with a truckload of finds. But again, you know, being a metal detector, everybody loves to find a lot of stuff, okay? But if it's not there, it's not there. If it's unreachable, untouchable, it's untouchable, unreachable. You have to make do with what you can. So let me turn this camera off briefly. Alright, we've got this Manicore. It has the latest version. This is the 15th day of September. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think they've come out with another one. Okay. We're just going to look at all-terrain high conductors. For folks that gets this small coal, you know, Sharpshooter's been running this coal. I've got some experience with it. Slower recovery speed is better than faster generally. I like 4. You can run it a little slower and you can run it a little faster. We're going to look at 4 in this video. Okay. Default upper ferrous limits. We ain't messing with them. One region, all tones. I've got the audio theme. Normal set to simple. Alright. Now, from this direction here, no detection. Okay? There's no detection. I'm going to mash the horseshoe. You can hear that iron. No detection. And you'll probably see the same thing with that DS2 here in just a moment. But it's got an 11-inch coal. You know, because there's a discussion over there on Friendly Forum about big coals or stout stock coals and small coals. So now we're going to sweep from this orientation here. The horseshoe button is in. You get to see that meter and what that machine is painting. Notice that ID. Now I don't have any, I've got the factory notch over in the machine. I'm going to turn the horseshoe off. I think 0 through 4 is notched. See that ID? That is shy of a silver mercury dime. Okay. I'm going to get the coal down real close. That's closer to what a silver dime will read. About 81, 82, 80, somewhere in there. Okay. So most sweeps, you get to see that ID on that screen. Okay, now we're going to get out of here. Now remember now, you know, you're out in the wild and you're digging. Now zinc and penny on this machine, it'll read down around 64 maybe, 63. Okay, now we're getting out of here. We're going to 5 kilohertz. See that? 5 kilohertz. What happens? Okay, so that's 5 kilohertz. What about 10 kilohertz? You see that? You see that screen? Okay, now here's 15. This is what a lot of the single frequency or thereabouts ran back in the day. Now remember, you're out in the wild, you know. Now, if you're running notch on this machine, remember, even if you're running a notch on this machine, let's say you're running a notch up to, let's say 61 or something. Well, depending, you know, you come across that 51 right there is probably not going to come through for you. All right. Now, we're going to get back out of here. And we go back to Multi-IQ Plus. So, per sweep, the ID is higher on average. See that? That's not too bad right there for that machine. Now what I'm going to do here, just because some people may be interested in this call, let's speed it up. 6. Let's see what happens here. So the ID lower. Okay, and I will slow the machine back down. We can slow it down to 3. See what happens to it? Now, as far as the performance with this machine on that scenario, sweeping from this direction, now remember what I said, okay, this right here, no detection, okay. This small call on that scenario there, the differentiation between the ID being subpar in the single frequency, especially, you know, 5, 10, and 15 compared to multi-frequency, yes, there is a difference. Multi-frequency does a better job. Let's see what happens with the DS2 with the 11-inch call. Let me turn the camera off. Alright, we got the mighty DS2 fired up here. We're in the fast program. I'm going to leave it in the fast program, but we may be changing the frequency. Okay, from this direction over here, and I've lowered the speed to 1.5. Like I said, you don't really get much from that direction there. But over here where the Manicore was doing fairly well, okay? Now there's full tones, PWM tones in this thing. You get to see the ID on that dime is low. Okay? So again, if you were notching zinc and pennies on this machine, you walk right by that dime right there. Okay? Now this is multi-frequency, 40 kilohertz band. There's no notch in this machine other than the factory on the fast, 23 and 24. Okay? So both of these machines are behaving similar ID-wise on that dime from this direction. Now I'm going to change the frequency. We'll go to 24 kilohertz band right back. You get a lot of single digits, and you see a 73 come in every now and then, a 79, a 8. Okay, now again, there's no notch in the iron range on this machine. Okay, we'll go to 14 kilohertz. ID seems to come up, okay? But can be low too, depending on which direction you come through there with that sweep, with that nail probably right there on the right side. Now we're getting out of here. We're going to the mono program. 17 kilohertz. Now I left the silence in the fast program at 2. We had the upper variance limits at default setting on the Manicore. There's no short changing any detector here. 17 kilohertz, we're going to reduce this. Back to speed off 1.5. Audio response is 5. So now we're at 7.5 kilohertz sweeping with this DS2 single frequency. So you got to hear that signal. So you walk right by that dime, chances are. Here's 13 kilohertz. The going to change the tones on it to full tones. Silencers at 2, 6.1 dis. Never does come. It got a 37, 64. Alright, we're going to get out of here. We're going to change the tones. Here's 5 tones. Let you hear this thing. So right there I get some signal. We got to get that edge of that call closer to that block there though, okay? But my ID is substantially lower. Trying to run a notch on this machine right there, I'd be in trouble, okay? In a lot of sweeps, I don't even get any signal. So you don't even have to, you know, how about getting signal? You don't even have to worry about an ID. $17 kilohertz. You get to hear that. Iron tone's on. That's what you're hearing in that machine. Right there, I'm getting a little signal, but I got a 36 in the window. See what I'm saying? I have to really hunt that dime right there. I have to keep moving the call around till I might get some signal, but the ID is not very good. If we go back over here to the fast program, even with a frequency max set at 40, look at there, signal every sweep. 73 in the window. 74, again, see, that's under silver dime range. So when you're out there hunting, you know, you better be thinking, okay, well, a lot of people's probably done got the textbook stuff, even yourself. So what do? You got to change your standard, lower your standard. But you don't have to go, you know, there may be silver out there that's reading like nickels, boys, but, you know, there might be a limit to how, you know, how low you want to go. But that zinc and penny has probably cost a lot of people some fines by intentionally notching a machine or not digging the ID when they get it in the window of a detector. I hope you enjoyed.